Welcome everybody. Your man here, Dwayne from Sports Talk Tech. Live first game of the FIFA World Cup out of the way. Qatar versus Ecuador. Ecuador completely in control. If it's the first time on the channel, I do a lot of stuff here on sports, a lot of sports explainers. We got stuff on everything you want. We'll be covering everything for the FIFA World Cup. We got a new video here on semi-automated technology, the newest thing in the video assistant referee room. And I'm telling you, it came. VAR was in action, semi-automated technology in action very early in this game, and I'll get to that. But I want to thank you for joining me. If it's the first time, wherever you're joining me from, make sure you let me know. We'll put your comments on the screen. I definitely, if you're joining us if you're watching this on the replay, also put where you're joining me from. And I'm really thankful that you're here. And we're gonna get right into it. So after a 4-year wait, Qatar, a lot of controversy about this World Cup, whether they should be hosting the World Cup, had to build a lot of stadiums, people talking about this is not a football country. Hey, all of that out of the way, human rights violations, you name it, and we can get into that if you want. But opening game, Ecuador versus the hosts. Hey, it's the first time in World Cup history that the host lost the game. It's probably going to be the second time in history that the host doesn't qualify out of the World Cup, so out of the group stage. But it was an exciting game. Started off with some good action here. And yeah, I got to be honest with you. I don't think I had Qatar doing much in this World Cup. I thought if they played really well, they would have been able to get a draw here today. But didn't happen. Ecuador, fairly young team. I think it's the third youngest team in the tournament. Got a little bit of a balance as well with some experienced players. But I thought Ecuador, not known for a lot of possession-based football, in the end, control this game. They scored at the right times. And I think Qatar's inability to respond, especially, just before the first half, they had an opportunity to maybe get back one. In the 62nd minute, they also had another opportunity. And then later on in the game, maybe around the 86th minute or so, they could have scored. And I'll get to most of that as well. And that would have made the game interesting. But you get what you wanted early. You wanted some exciting football, a little bit of physicality here. Thanks, everyone, for joining me. I really appreciate you on the channel. And yeah, put your questions in. I'll get to them. But you got right away the new technology. So semi-automated technology. That's the newest thing, newest kid on the block. 4 years after FIFA introduced VAR, they now have the offside technology with some significant improvements. I know a lot of people out here don't like VAR, but hey, if you don't like VAR, we can talk about that as well. And it didn't take long for the semi-automated offside technology to come into action. But if you don't really know all the details on the semi-automated technology, I have a video on the channel, brand new video, dropped it earlier today, talking about what the technology is, how it works, whether or not it will improve the flow of the game. Because part of the reason why we get semi-automated technology is because of the accuracy in terms of figuring out offside calls, but how quickly can you get to this? And you don't want average VAR calls are around 70 seconds. And which, if you're a fan of the sport, that's a lifetime. And so if you can bring that down somewhat, then you think it will increase the flow of the game. So right away, it didn't take long for us to get semi-automated technology into the mix. So in the 3rd minute, we get a goal that's not a goal because VAR brings it back. And I want to break that down for sure. Let's talk about what happened there. So ideally, let's make some ground rules. So you get semi-automated technology, you're supposed to be able to get the offside line drawn automatically for the referee. So the VAR room, they don't have to think about drawing the line. This was something that they had to do before manually with the cameras, and figure out where the line is. But now there's a lot of cameras on every player, data points spitting out so they know exactly the position on the football field. Additionally, the ball has sensors in it, so the connected ball that FIFA is using this year, so you know when it gets kicked, the positioning of the players, and so on. And so what happened in the third minute? In the third minute, we get a goal. So, and then it was called off. But here's the thing, and I'll and I'll get it as I sip a little bit of water. Thanks again for joining us. It took a while for that offside decision to come. And so if you were expecting a quick decision on semi-automated technology, you said to yourself, what was happening there? Because presumably the line is you're supposed to be able to get an offside automatically, at least if the AI technology is that good, you know? But it took a long time. And additionally, I think what I didn't like, and I don't know if this is a FIFA issue, it took 10 minutes. So it wasn't until the 13 minutes for us to get that the 3D image, and I'll put the 3D image up on screen here in a second. If we can get the 3D image up, yeah. So it took a while for us to get that 3D image so we could see that the player was offside. And presumably that is something that's built really quickly, right? Right away in the game, you should be able to get that 3D image. So I don't know if it was the television cameras, not the television feed taking a long time to put that out to the rest of the world. There was a couple stoppages in play where they could have quickly put it. There was a corner for, I think, Qatar. They could have put that back in, or a corner. I think it was a corner for Ecuador. Sorry, they could have, showed it quickly. And it took until the 13 minute for them to really break down what happened. But here's what happened. All right. So first of all, the decision was correct. There's no doubt about it. It was correct. The offside visualization took a while to come. But here's how I think, if we could try to break it down a little bit to see what was happening. So there was a free kick that was played into the area, right? So the Ecuadorian defender, Felix Torres, he was trying to make movements there. So he challenged for the ball on the Qatari goalkeeper. And then the ball fell to Michael Estrada, who he headed that ball back, if you recall. If you go back and watch it, he headed the ball back to Torres, who then creates this goal, who then sets it up for Valencia, right? But when Torres touched the ball, that's when we get all of the issues here. So when Torres touches the ball, Estrada had 1 foot ahead of the second to last defender, which is Hassan. So if you look at the image on screen, this is what we're seeing here. So when Torres gets the ball back to him, and if you go back and watch it on the replay, he is now in an offside position. That is very difficult to see because everybody was bunched up at the time with the naked eye. It's hard to kind of figure that out. I don't think the on-field assistant referees would have been able to pick that up. I certainly didn't pick it up. And when they showed that instant replay, not too long after the offside goal was not too long after the offside call, it was a little bit hard for me to really see that. I don't know if any of you in the watching this or live or on the broadcast saw the call, but it took a while for me to pick up on that call. This review again is a bit longer than your regular VAR review. So if you remember, FIFA says VAR reviews take an average of 70 seconds. They bring in semi-automated offside technology that's supposed to bring down the time it takes to get that, because the offside line is drawn already, and it just takes the video assistant referee to just look to make sure he's okay with this, and then they make a call, right? And so, but it took a much longer. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Big up Dean the Dream, big up John, Chebby and Johnson, if I got that pronounced right. Thanks for joining us. Let us know where you're joining from. Did you enjoy that first matchup here? I see Dean says he didn't pick up the offside on replay. Yeah, I don't think it was easy to pick up. And so the reason why it took long, and I don't think it was the technology itself. I think the video assistant referee had to be sure or be clear that the ball did come off Torres. So if when and that was a thing he had to look at. So I am not quite sure if so again, and I know I'm mumbling a little bit on this, but here's the challenge. The current structure with the cameras and also with the connected ball, they know exact points in which on the field where everybody is. So that's not that hard for the computer to figure out. But what the referee had to do in this situation is he had to make sure, and the VAR referee I'm talking about had to make sure that the ball came off Torres, because if it didn't come off Torres, then the goal would not be an offside goal, right? And so when you look at that, it's very difficult to figure out. So it took uh, a little bit longer for them to review this. I think they had to be certain that the ball did come off Torres. Without that, Estrada would be he would not been on offside, and it would be irrelevant, right? Like everything would just go through. But in the end, I think in the end we know for a fact that it's the correct thing. The call was correct. The problem, I think, and FIFA has this problem, and maybe it's a relationship with the television camera and the television feed as well, is that they take too long to explain this to people, right? So I suspect that the semi-automated technology was very clear in terms of where they are, but you still needed the human eye to be certain. And as FIFA has been saying, the reason why it's semi is largely because it's the decision or the final arbiter in offside calls is still a human, right? But we can discuss whether or not that will be the case for much longer. But they had to make sure that it came off, right? And so it took a while. It was confusing, I imagine. The whole of that situation as well, I wasn't quite sure what the Qatari keeper was doing there. Why did he come out to try and get the ball? Usually, if you're coming out, you have to get the ball. Didn't do a good job there. And we all know Ecuador likes to set up the play on the right, and then come in. So he had some defenders over there who could probably naturally have worked that out. In the end, it was offside, so they're okay with that. But they got lucky there. But had he not touched the ball, Torres not touched the ball, then we would have gotten a legitimate goal. And so, we see right away that the semi-automated offside technology is in full effect. I think they need to figure out quickly how to explain that on television. That 3D image that they generate should also go inside of the stadium. I don't know how quickly I'm not there in Qatar, so I don't know how quickly they show that image to the viewing public inside of the stadium. But that really should come out really quickly, I think, when they're able to draw the line. So the moment I think the referee, the VAR referee makes that call in conjunction with what he got from the semi-automated offside technology, the image appears, and they should be able to beam that inside of the stadium. And I think you need to beam that too really quickly on television. And football requires a stoppage of play for you to just kind of do that. There was an opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, with a corner, and I think there was also another throw-in that they could have put that in. But they really need to be on top of this. I don't know if it's a situation where the technical team has to communicate this clearly to the commentators, but that needs to happen. So I suppose the color commentators, that they like to call it, or should be the one who is getting that information that can then relate that to the viewing public, or figure out a way to put it in the top corner so at least we could see the offside there. And then when there's a legitimate breaking play, you can then explain that to the public. Because otherwise, I'm sitting there saying, I'm not quite sure. I know the technology is in operation, and a lot of people are anti-VAR. I'm not necessarily. I don't fall in that camp. I think VAR on balance is good in terms of limiting the kind of unbalance. They're good in limiting the kind of things that can impact the the outcome of a game, and you really don't want to make big mistakes, right? And so I appreciate that the technology is there to aid the referees, and I think it's only going to get better. But I think communicating that to the to the viewing public, especially on television, needs to happen much quicker, right? Otherwise, even if it's a text or something where the VAR officials can actually explain that, we get that really quickly. It will help. I mean, it won't help the bar talk. I know a lot of people are saying that's too precise. We can't see this, but that's another debate. That's a debate for another day, or we can have it today on accuracy, what we need to do in terms of determining what is offside and what's not offside. But that's early in the game. I think that was good. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. If you're joining me on the replay, I appreciate you. Do please tell us where you're coming, but where you're watching from. Did you enjoy this game? Did you have Ecuador as your favorite for the match today? What about Qatar? Is it all over for Qatar? Can Qatar make it out of this group? I don't see it. I actually don't see it. I still, at the top of, I did my bracket. I also have that on the channel if you want to see my bracket for who will end up winning the World Cup. I still have Netherlands topping this group, and I expect them to do it quite comfortably. I have Senegal coming out as second, even in the absence of Sadio Mane, their talisman, the guy who can score goals, he can set it up. He's just a leader on the pitch as well. I still think Senegal will come out. I didn't really expect. I expected Ecuador to play well. I know they're physical. They're pretty young. They generally like to play on the counter attack. Today they were really comfortable, and the timing which they scored the goals today allowed them to just manage the game very well. But I still think that they will come third in the group. Despite this display today, I just don't think Qatar has a lot to offer, and it's very hard to judge. Qatar's been, they've never been to a World Cup. They've been playing some tournaments. They've been invited to different competitions to get going. When you watch Qatar playing against weak opposition, they look good. They have a slightly Barcelona type model. They pass the ball well. It's smooth to watch on the eye. But once he started come up against quality players, then it doesn't really look that great for them. So I don't think they're anywhere a marker to say that Ecuador was out of this world today. I think Ecuador wasted a couple of chances here. They should have scored some more goals, but we can get into that in a second. And and hopefully we will do that. But I think by and large, Qatar wasn't physical enough to match this Ecuadorian team. And I want to thank everybody again for joining me. Let me know your thoughts on the game today. Did you enjoy it? Are you excited for this World Cup? Who's your favorite for the World Cup? I think that's something that we should look at. I see a number of people joining me. I want to thank you for coming on the channel. My name is Dwayne. I do a lot of videos on this channel, Sports Talk Tech explainer videos. We have the latest video on the channel for discussing the semi-automated technology. So don't forget to check that out after we're done. And please put your comments, your questions. I get to them. And so let's get back to the game. The man with the experience, Enner Valencia, scoring 2 goals. I think he delivered. He had more. He's the most senior guy on the team, or the only one that's been to a World Cup before for Ecuador, and so he delivered. Scored scored a penalty, but the second goal, the header, was really nice, and I think that really sealed the game very, very early. Qatar had an opportunity to pull back one just before the half, and they didn't, and that probably would have made a difference there. I wonder why Enner Valencia though was came back out for the second half because he seemed to have suffered an injury. At first, I thought it was feigning injury and it wasn't a legitimate injury, but clearly something wasn't right there. He comes back on. Was he trying to go for the hat trick or something, or work it off? And that to me was a little bit puzzling. And then now he had to be substituted late in the game, which I am shocked that he stayed on that long, because you have to manage a player like him. If Ecuador loses him, I don't know where they find all the goals from. So I hopefully he's not that injured, and he can he can recover in time for the game against the Netherlands. And so I think Miguel had a great chance again in the 62nd minute. And the 82nd minute again. So at 2-0, I think it's 2-0, as they say in football, is always an interesting kind of a score line to defend. You're not too comfortable. You pull back one, you're a little bit on the edge. And so at the 86th minute, when Muntari had that right foot shot, I mean, if that had gone in, that right foot shot from Muntari, that would have been already one of the goals of the tournament. And had he scored that goal right there, I think he would have made the last part of the game interesting, because Ecuador had a couple of chances to play, to score some goals. I think they're a little bit profligate and they should have done better there. But that would have made the game interesting for me. And they didn't. And so the challenge is Ecuador is just a far superior team than Qatar. And maybe they should have racked up a couple more goals, because goal difference may matter in this tournament. I don't expect Senegal to beat the Netherlands, and I expect everybody to beat Qatar, and so it may come down to that. And that's why I still think Ecuador should have racked up some more goals if they want a chance to get out of this group. I still think Senegal will come out of the group behind the Netherlands. Let me know what you think. Who's your favorite for the group? And where are you joining me from? Thanks again for joining me. We got some big games tomorrow as well. So let me just, to quickly recap what happened today. In the first match, I think, lovely performance by Ecuador. Starts off the game well. Scores a goal in the 3rd minute, and the semi-automated technology is on spot. VAR takes up a pretty long time, I think. Yeah, this is the offside decision here. VAR takes too long, but I think when we understand the complicated nature of this, we realize why they took a long time here. And you want to think that you want these calls instantaneously, and I think the offside line is drawn instantaneously now, given semi-automated technology. But the VAR referee had to make sure that the ball, did come off Torres, right? He had to be certain the ball did come off Torres. And if that didn't happen, then Estrada would not have been offside, right? So that's the fundamental thing there. And so I imagine they're spending time in the VAR room looking to make sure that the ball actually came off Torres. And so it takes a longer time. And I know I can't show you the pictures because we'll get into trouble here. But if you get a chance to rewatch the video, rewatch that incident in the 3rd minute, because I spent a little bit of time at halftime trying to back it up to make sure that I understood what was happening. Because I was a little bit upset, as I was mentioning. I was like, semi-automated technology, we're going to get a decision right away. And, that wasn't coming. And I had to go back and I had to look at it. And so when you think about it, and when you go look at it, and let me know, watch it, come back and hit me up on the channel. The second to last defender is being kind of blocked out by the goalkeeper, right? And so it's hard for and then there's another defender that's on the other side, so it's hard to see. So there are moments where you have technology that can aid you, but at the same time you have to kind of, if a human is the person who has to validate the decision at the end, they have to look at all of these decisions, and it's hard, and so this is one of those complicated offsides that we have in the game. And I imagine without the technology, without the VAR room, we wouldn't have gotten the right call. So in the end, it's important to get the right call, right? And I think as fans of the sport, I know there are purists of the sport who talk about we can't have technology, but a lot of these same fans who don't like technology are okay now with goal line technology. And go check my video out on semi-automated technology. It's linked. We'll link it in this description as well. But we get used to it because football is such a low scoring goal that it's important that these decisions are made correctly. And I want the flow of the game to go on. I don't like the long delay. Nobody likes the delay in football. That's what makes it the beautiful game. You know what the Brazilians like to say, the jogo bonito. But if we don't get it right, then it could really alter the result of any game. And so I think in the end, I'm not too bent out of shape about how long it took the VAR referee to make this decision today, because it's a complicated offside. There's other people obscuring it. The thing that I think we need to improve on, and I cannot blame FIFA for this because I actually don't know the answer to this, and if someone knows the answer, and I'll go find the answer at some point, is the relationship in terms of communicating the decision and is communicating the decision from the VAR room to the television feed and that coming back to the viewing public. They need to do this much faster. They need to figure out ways to, if there's no stoppage in play, to put it on the side. I know no one likes to see those things on the side, but we're seeing ads for Coca-Cola, Budweiser, you name it. Do something there that we can see, or scroll something underneath the thing. So when you get a natural stoppage in play, then you can spend a little bit of time explaining that. And I think that was the only drawback for me in terms of it took 10 minutes for us rather, to get a sense of what happened. But at the end of the day, we got the correct decision. We should not complain about it, and you had to think whether or not Torres played the ball, and VAR had to do it, and they did it. They made the right decision. And if you're Qatar, you're happy with that decision. Ecuador, you'd be like, well, we'd like it to go ahead, but it allowed them not to be down, in the first 3 minutes of the game. I mean, eventually they didn't do much. They did concede 2 in the first half, and it made the game very comfortable for a team like Ecuador, who likes to play on the counter attack. So I think that's what happened. Thanks again for joining us. Let us know where you're joining us. We've been doing a review of the first match of the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar, Ecuador versus Qatar, the host nation, losing. I think it's the first time in World Cup history that the first game of the tournament, the host doesn't get something out of the game, no points, and that doesn't look good for them. Where do you see this group going? Do you expect the Netherlands to beat Senegal in the coming days? So let me know. What's your favorite moment of the game? Did you enjoy that lovely goal by Valencia? What about that late shot from Muntari rather? Sorry, Mohamed Muntari. He could have, if he had scored that goal, that would have, light the entire Qatar supporters groups and fans in the stadium would have loved that goal, but it wasn't to be. I think that would have been a contender for goal of the tournament had he put that in the back of the net, right? And so interesting game today. I think Ecuador is far superior, and that's where we go. Tomorrow we have some lovely games on schedule. They start off with the game against England versus Iran. What's your thoughts on that game? Who will line up? This English team, they went to the semifinals of the last World Cup. They went to the finals of the European Championships last year, lost to Italy in that final. What your thoughts on this? Gareth Southgate guy. Gareth Southgate is an interesting kind of manager. I know a lot of British fans don't necessarily like the way he plays, but Southgate has an interesting philosophy. You don't win tournaments. I mean, he hasn't won tournaments, but I think he understands that you don't really win a World Cup without figuring out that you have to have a structure, defensive structure that can work. And what's your lineup for tomorrow's game? I think England should win this game. I think they should win this group comfortably. If they don't, a lot of questions need to be answered here. If they don't win, they have some injuries. Who starts? Does Maguire get into that team? I doubt it. I imagine, he's going to probably play three at the back. It's not no time for tinkering. I'm not quite sure, but I imagine he'll play three at the back. Who gets into the team? Does Trent start? Does Trippier start? What about Luke Shaw? What is he going to do? Goalkeeper? Do you have Pickford? Obviously Harry Kane will be up front. I think there's some certain spots on the team. Harry Kane, I think Jude Bellingham will start. I think he's a fantastic talent. Phil Foden should start. What about Marcus Rashford? Where does he come in? So that should be a good game tomorrow as well. England versus Iran. You may get an upset, but I doubt it. I really doubt it. And then we'll get the marquee game of the first group with Senegal versus the Netherlands, and I think that's going to be a fantastic game. I think tactically it will be good. Louis van Gaal has his guys playing really well. I saw an interview with Van Gaal, and he was thinking that his team could go all the way. So, your thoughts on Senegal and the Netherlands? I still think the Netherlands will win. I think it's going to be a competitive game. Should be physical as well. Lots of good passing. There's a lot of good structure there. And then the day ends with the United States playing Wales. And your thoughts on that? Greg Berhalter's team, USA back at the World Cup. They missed out at the last World Cup. What about this Wales team? The Welsh are interesting. They got some good players, but aging as well. I don't know. I mean, I have USA coming out of the group as well. So, if you see my preview video on the channel, we'll see. But, today was a fantastic game. Let me give you my prediction. So I think England will win tomorrow. Score prediction, I would say maybe 3-1. I think they may concede. I think Iran may even score the first goal. I'm going to go out on a limb and make that up. Right, Senegal, Netherlands. I think this might be a 2-0 victory for the Netherlands, but one in which it's a tough game. I think it's going to be a tough game. And for USA Wales, I think maybe a 1-0 win for the United States. Yeah, that's how I'm going to go. All right. I want to thank everybody for joining me on the channel. Got some good videos up. My preview video. I have a bracket that I went through of the World Cup. I'm already rethinking that, but I wanted to put my thing out there. I wanted to make sure that when at the end of the tournament, you can come back and laugh at me, and say you didn't know what you're talking about. You probably would do that anyway, but I did a bracket there. But more importantly, I have a great explainer video on the channel, talking about the semi-automated technology. We've seen it in action today. Came in action in the 3rd minute of the game, and I think my hot take. Watch that video. Let me know your thoughts on it. I think one of the beauties of the semi-automated technology is that it will increase the accuracy of these offside calls. What counts as offside, we can already argue about that, but there's established things there. And I think Law 11, if you want to check it out, of International Football Association rules. And I think semi-automated technology will work. And I think it will make things much more accurate. But I think it will also impact the free flowing of the football. And as fans, you want constant action. Football game starts, no stoppage, beautiful game, halftime, you come back on, full timer. And that's it. And that's the way fans love it. They don't want a lot of stopping. But we have to sometimes think about the nature of the game that it is. And it's a game that is low scoring. That means when you get a ball in the back of the net, it could be crucial in terms of determining the outcome of the game. And not only that, we're thinking about offsides, but there's a lot of things that happen on a football pitch, whether it's a missed penalty, violent conduct. And so on balance, and I really want to have this discussion, on balance, I think there's no way I I am very comfortable with the notion of VAR playing a significant role in determining the fairness of the sport. You want to make sure that at the end of the day, the right calls are being made. And if it means that I have to wait a little bit of a couple seconds here and there, I'll take it, right? FIFA has acknowledged that the average time for an offside decision is 70 seconds. That's what you get. Some are a little bit longer because you have these complicated offsides. Like today was a complicated offside. But I imagine, like, for the other two goals that were scored today, well, the other goal, not the penalty, but the header from Valencia, they didn't take any time. We could see that with the naked eye, I guess, but also the computer would have known that really instantaneously. And I think FIFA's acknowledged, there's a lot of things I don't want to agree with FIFA, and we can get into that in terms of how they decide these World Cups and sponsorship and all of that kind of stuff. But in terms of the technological side of FIFA, the people coming and the implementation of this, I think they're doing a good job in terms of trying to figure this out. And I think accuracy, improving the flow of the game will only come, and we need to do that. And also the refereeing at FIFA, it's high quality, right? Like, I think they're doing a good job. Kalina is really in charge of referees. They're making sure the game flows. And look, I know a lot of people want to go to the bar and they want to have a good chat and talk about and argue whether that a goal was offside or not and so on, but we still have that, and we can still marvel in beautiful play, and we can still argue about calls or whether or not the game is too rough or we should allow certain type of tackles. But in the end, I think they're doing a fairly decent job. Let's wait until the end of this World Cup. But I think if watch my video in terms of what I think about how you will know if this is if semi-automated technology works really well. And I think, if we're being honest with ourselves, I think it will work. And if you don't really talk about it by the end of the tournament, that maybe is one of these signs that they're doing a better job. And so, again, I want to thank you for joining us tonight on just discussing the first day of the FIFA World Cup. Congratulations to Ecuador getting out of the gate, top of the group. We'll see what happens tomorrow. And Qatar, lots of work to do. They really need to find a way. Can they actually find a way against the other two teams in this group? I don't think so. I think Qatar will now end this group without any points. It would take a miracle for them to get to even get a point for me right now. And that is, tough. You never want to see a host nation suffer like that. But they just don't have the kind of quality. They've spent a lot of money on infrastructure. They've spent a lot of money to get good coaching, and they created that what's that academy called? The Aspire Academy they have in terms of developing football and so on. But it takes a while. There's a reason why only few countries have won in history have ever won the World Cup. It doesn't happen overnight. You need certain kind of infrastructure, and you need players playing regularly in top leagues, and it will take time. And so if they continue to do some development, it will bear fruit in the future. But we'll see. So that's going to be all for me today. I want to thank you again for joining me, and leave your comments. If you're joining me on the replay, I'll definitely catch you. Don't forget to subscribe. I want you to hit that notification bell, because if you enjoy this, and I want to create a community for you guys as well, the subscription is important. The notification, I think, is the most beautiful thing on YouTube, because it's a reminder. You don't need to check anything. It tells you when I'm coming live, when we drop a video. And I really appreciate you being there. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time. And I think just before I end, I want to say, I think 83% of you on the poll said you're a fan of VAR. So we'll see. Let's see if that poll changes. But thanks again. We had this poll up on the channel just to see your thoughts on the video assistant referee, your thoughts on the semi-automated technology, offside technology. And thanks. you stay safe out there. Enjoy the games that are coming up tomorrow, and enjoy the videos on the channel. If it's your first time on the channel, go check out my playlist on Sports Explainers. I cover a lot of different things. Have a lot of football related video right here and other kind of sports if you're interested in that as well. So thanks again. I appreciate you, and that's all from me today. Bye bye.